Hi everybody, this is Mr. Dodd. The purpose of this video is just to go over and discuss a couple of the major things that come out of Chapter 2 of Friday Night Lights. So by the time that you watch this video, you should have already finished reading all of Chapter 2 of Friday Night Lights and then completed this study guide, which I'm just going to walk through the study guide, talk about some of the possible answers for each of these questions, and then also just mention some of the things that you probably should have in your answer or things that you should pay attention to. Again, purpose of these discussion questions and these study guides is just to help you hone in on what is it that you should be pulling out of the story, or what are some things that you can pull out of this book. Eventually, you're going to be taking a test over this book, and you're going to be discussing some of the bigger things that are coming out of it. Essentially, we're trying to just figure out what would be the purpose of reading this book, and that's part of what these questions are all about. So the first question that's on here where it says describe the process of the watermelon feed. This whole chapter is about this watermelon feed and what it is. Basically, during the preseason, it's where the entire community will come together and they have this, it's a fundraising thing, but everybody in the community will come. Part of what they do is they recap what happened the season before. So they celebrate all their successes, and then also they will introduce that year's team. So essentially, what it does is it draws the entire community together. Obviously, with it being called the watermelon feed, they do serve watermelon. It would kind of be where our school every once in a while will have like a spaghetti dinner type thing where they're going to bring everybody together, collect money, but then also just get everybody together. And what is its purpose? It's sort of to ramp things up for the upcoming season. And again, they do talk about that it is a huge fundraising thing. And if you look in the book specifically, there it brings in a huge amount of money that goes to the team. Part of it is from the watermelon feed itself. The other part of it is there's this sort of advertising book, a yearbook type thing that they will also sell there, and they sell ads in there. And we are talking about a large amount of money. And again, take a look at in the book to see exactly what that amount is. It's going to be surprising that this is associated with a high school football team. So once we have established exactly what this watermelon feed is, now what do you think some of the positive things are about this event concerning its impact in the community, school, and players? Obviously, it's bringing everybody together. And a huge positive of that is they've established up to this point, or at least hinted at it, that this is a very divided community. The racial lines, you have a white population, you have an African American population, you also have a Hispanic population that do not cross over that much. They will go into more detail about that in some of the later chapters to make it exactly clear exactly how divided they are, but we are talking about the Deep South, and we are talking about many years in the past. So it is a very divided community. However, an event like this, everybody comes together. They all have a common purpose that they're sharing in, and that can be a very powerful thing. And then the fact that they can all come together and raise that amount of money, it shows the pride that they have in a team like that. So that's one of the major positive things. There are some others, but you need to at least be focusing in on that, the fact that it does bring everybody together. Now, as far as some of the negatives, this can be a very positive thing, but it's also going to have some negative effects. Now, this is not an all-inclusive list, and it's something for you to think about a little more deeply, but one of the negatives, we have high school students, these high school football players, and they are being idolized. That can have its own list of negatives that's going to come along with that. A possibility is that some of these students start feeling a sense of entitlement. It can lead to these student athletes feeling like that football is more important than the education they're supposed to be getting from going to this high school. So those are just a couple of the negatives that can come into that. You get this adulation for these players, and that can go to a player's head. There's a lot of discussion in today's sports world where there are many players that get this sense of entitlement, which is not surprising. You take a look at that there's so much more information out on social media and the internet now about these players. I mean, I have heard news stories through ESPN where they will and other sources where they will talk about that they are identifying these basketball players in the eighth grade and they are getting offers to for college scholarships. That can go to a player's head, and then you start having all these other issues that can develop from that. There's a lot of They're starting to take a look at more research that's going to back up exactly what are the effects of things like that, but there are tons of examples of that. So that can be a negative thing. Like I said, those aren't the only negatives. I definitely want you trying to think about what are some of the other negatives that are going to be associated with that. But the fact that it can go to the players' heads and sort of set them up to where they're in high school and this could be the biggest thing that they ever do in their life. They leave this high school setting and they're not treated that way anymore, and they don't know exactly how to deal with that. So that's one of the negatives. Going on. Who are the pep vets and what are some of the responsibilities and requirements? The pep vets. The pep vets are essentially they're female students, and each pep vet is assigned to a particular player, and it's their job to essentially make things for them, such as treats that they give them on the Fridays before games. They also make signs for them and various other things, but they are always females. So, and there are a few other different responsibilities, requirements, and then some things that maybe are they are told that they should do, or at least expected to do, even though it's not officially stated. And again, go back, take a look at the book, and see what are some of those specific things. But then, what are some of the positive and negative aspects of this tradition? Obviously, the positives. Again, it allows people to come together. They all are working towards a common goal. So they all feel like that they are a part of this huge thing that is Permian football, and everybody wants to have some place in it. So the players, obviously, they play the games. The fans, they're there as well. These female students, this is one way for them to be involved, sort of as a branch of a fan club, essentially. But what about the negative aspects of this tradition? You have these high school females that are sort of expected to cater to these players. There are some negatives to that where basically it can be argued that the only role that these female students can take with this Permian football program is to sort of act as servants, for lack of a better term, servants to these players. And is that really the kind of message that we want to be sending to our young people in our world? Is that okay? And I think in a lot of cases, many people would argue no. If we were to pose this question, you females that are in class, would you be comfortable serving in a role like that? Gentlemen in the class, if you had a daughter or a sister or your girlfriend, would you want her serving in that sort of role? So it brings up sort of these questions about, is this really the kind of message that we want to be sending that to our young female students? Number 5, what are your reactions to the description and reasoning behind some of the injuries to players from the past, the broken arm, loss of a sensitive body part, and what does this show about the players in the community? They have a couple different examples. One player breaks his arm and goes ahead and plays the rest of the game. And he sets it in the huddle, goes ahead and plays the rest of the game. And it shows a tremendous amount of toughness, but again, is that really a safe thing? The other student actually, during a game, suffers an injury to his groin, and no one really checks into it, continues playing in the game, and by the end of it, the the player's testicle has swollen up so large that nothing can be done and actually has to be removed. Now, we take a look at that. One aspect of it is that shows toughness, that these players are willing to play through pain. They feel such a commitment to the team and what that team means, that they're going to be the toughest players out there. That's going to be the toughest team. And if you play that tough and if you have that kind of mentality, then it can have some positive aspects. That's going to be a tough team. If you get into a close game or anything like that, and you know that the players are that tough that they're going to play through that kind of injury, you have a good chance to win. in that case. And it's sort of, as we can tell from this story, they even say that one of the players said, please don't take me out of the game, or don't argue with the coaches, or don't get on the coaches and yell at them about what happened, because then I won't be able to play because they're going to think I'm not that tough. Again, that shows a high level of commitment to this program, and it probably is part of the reason that they've been so successful. However, let's spin it the other way. Again, these are student athletes, these are high school kids, and in one case, a middle school student. Is this the kind of message that we want to be sending? That you are going to play through that kind of pain, and then you're going to have these kind of problems later on. It kind of plays into a bigger issue, such as with what's going on with the NFL right now. There are several players that now that their playing career is over, and they have brain injuries from concussions and other head injuries that they suffered during their playing career, and now years later after they've retired, it's now impacting their life, which at the time that they were playing, those players will admit they didn't want to come out of the game. They felt a commitment to their teammates. They wanted to be in that game and were willing to go ahead and play even if their head was hurting and they could not think straight. But now, years later, they're having major trouble. And where do we find a balance between the two things? And that's something for you to think about as we go forward with this. So, and number 6, just were there any other parts that stuck out to you? What were they and why? The biggest thing with this, and I mean, you can put whatever you want. Please, you're going to see this question pop up a lot as we continue going through the course. Please go ahead and jot some things down there. I'm sure that as you read these chapters, there's things that pop into your head where you're either surprised, confused. There are things that are going to linger as far as you read it and then you're still thinking about it. Write those things down. That is the perfect kind of thing that we can talk about in class. My ultimate goal when it comes to reading things in this class, I want you thinking about what we've read and not just summarizing it. I want you actually starting to question it and think critically about it. I will constantly come back to that. If you are thinking about what you are reading and asking questions of it and jotting those questions down so that you can later ask other people that are in the class, you can ask me, whoever, ask your parents. That means that you're thinking about it and you're getting more out of that reading. It means you're thinking about it in a bigger way than just letting your eyes pass over the words on the page and then eventually taking a test over it. So please try to jot some things down there so that we can talk about them in class. Again, hopefully this video will allow you to kind of think about some of the bigger things that are going on in this chapter. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in class. Thank you.